Development and Transportation Committee meeting for May 27th, 2020. The purpose of committee meetings are for the city departments to pass along information to the city council and discuss initiatives listed on the published agenda. By ordinance, the committee consists of the mayor, members of the city council, and the city administrator. The ordinance mandates the city administrator as the chair of the meetings. By ordinance, the committee makes no formal decisions on committee matters. Rather, items are voted to move to a mayor and council meeting for consideration to vote, or staff receives guidance from the committee regarding a matter. This is a public meeting, but not a public hearing. Therefore, while the meeting is open to the public, we do not take public comments or questions during the committee meetings. Public comments or questions are received at the regular city council meetings held at 7 p.m. in the city council chambers on the second and fourth Monday of each month, or on Zoom. Make sure you check the agenda before you proceed to City Hall. The first item on the agenda for today is the approval of the minutes for the Community Development and Transportation Committee meeting for February 26th, 2020. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Motion approved by Councilmember Tizer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Judy. Any discussion or questions? All in favor, please raise your hands. And it is Councilmember Zapata on? Nancy?
Yes.
Councilmember Zapata, can you turn your video on, please? Is Councilmember Claremont? What am I doing here? Councilmember Claremont not on?
No.
Okay. It's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to community development, item number 2, discussion to review health spa uses. Ms. Diamond.
Good morning, everyone. Back in February, this was on the agenda, and we were asked to look at other jurisdictions and bring this back to committee. So that's what we've done. So if you give me a minute, I'm going to share my screen with you, and we'll show you what we found from other jurisdictions.
Search the green liberty button.
All right, so what we've done is gotten some information from, like I said, other jurisdictions. So I'll start with Sandy Springs. They allow for spa, massage, and commercial districts as a personal service use. Their definition basically indicates as a commercial establishment to derive income from provision of anything following personal services, body wraps, hydro wraps, body polish, body wash. Basically, that's kind of what you have on the screen is what their definition is. Then we looked at their massage establishment means any business or commercial establishment having a source of income or compensation derived from the practice of massage, which employs or contracts with one or more massage therapists, or offers to public facilities and personnel for administration of massages, and has a fixed or placed business where any person, firm, association, or corporation engages in or carries on activities defined as massage. And massage establishments shall not include hospitals or other professional healthcare establishments. The City of Marietta allows for spa, massage, and commercial districts. The staff member spoke with someone from Marietta, and they were informed that massage is allowed in all the commercial zoning classifications throughout the city. The City of Johns Creek allows for spa, massage, and commercial districts C1, O&I, and mix. There, they indicate that a spa establishment means commercial establishment allowing for engages in personal services for patients to disrobe, body wraps, hydro mineral wraps, body polish, body wash, baths, and tub soak. Massage establishment means commercial establishment where any person offers or provides massage. The City of Milton does not allow for a massage parlor in the city limits. It does allow for health clubs / spa in the mixed use district and the C1, which is the community business district. So the definition of a health club spa means a commercial establishment whose members pay a fee to use its health and fitness facilities and equipment. This definition does not include residential or subdivision amenity areas. The city of Alpharetta allows in the downtown mixed-use district with a conditional use for approval for their spa massage. And all the other zoning districts do not allow it. They have also additional requirements. You have to have a minimum of 300 feet from State Route 9 and a minimum of 300 feet from State Route 120. And at least 300 feet from any parcel occupied by a house of worship, public or private elementary or secondary school, public park, state licensed daycare facility, or any residence. Fulton County, they have some specifics, more massage therapy. They indicate that it can't be done in the unincorporated area without first meeting requirements of this article, which is section 18.146. Basically, they indicate that it's not allowed there. If in the municipality, then the requirements apply. The spa definition under Fulton County is in the same category as fitness centers. So it's kind of unrelated to massage. The city of Atlanta, interesting enough, health spa falls under the definition of a sports arena. And so that's why you see this definition on here. It states sports arena means that it includes sports stadiums, enclosed pavilions, gymnasiums, health spas, boxing arenas, swimming pools, and as you can see, the rest of that. Based on the information under their code, a sports arena falls under uses that require a special use permit for approval. So since the definition of a health spa falls under that sports arena, it would mean that a health spa would require a special use permit for approval. The city of Woodstock allows spa massage in the general commercial zoning district, the downtown central business district, the downtown general commercial area, and downtown residential office. And they have specific extra requirements. In their definition here, they indicate that they have to meet this section called PC star 9. It's hard to find on the websites. That basically just indicated that the following uses: spa establishments, body works, massage therapists, and all those have to have additional regulations and or pay a regulatory fee governed by the city of Woodstock. The city of Dunwoody allows for massage and spa establishments to fall under personal improvement service classification, and this use is allowed in all the commercial use categories within the city. And their definition here for personal improvement service is shown on your screen. Basically, it's very similar to a typical use, includes hair salons, barber shops, beauty shops, nail salons, massage and spa establishments. And then they also have additional license and operational regulations applied under their Chapter 10 in their code. And then these are different licenses and permitting information for the city of Dunwoody. So in the city of Roswell, this is what we have today that we require. For a massage therapist, they have to submit a state license from the Georgia Board of Massage Therapy, and they have to have a state professional license. And the individual for each therapist, exempt regulatory lease agreement, and completed commercial business license application. A health spa requires more information. So that's the link there that shows where the health spa is. But they have to have a completed commercial business license application, lease agreement, fingerprint background check of applicants, character reference letters, and insurance not less than $25,000. So what we've done here is to provide you with the information to show you the other jurisdictions. The next steps are up to you, whether you want us to work with our legal department and write something up related to health spas and bring back to you maybe at the July or August committee so that we can get it thoroughly reviewed and make sure it looks right and is reviewed by the legal department. So if you want us to do that, we will move forward. Otherwise, next steps, as I said, are up to you. Do you have any questions?
Floor is open.
Thank you, Jackie.
Yeah, thank you, Jackie.
Floor is open.
Yeah, Jackie, I guess based on the review of the other cities, I'd like to take a closer look at each of the definitions, but are there any, do you have any recommendations for changes that we might make to our current descriptions?
Well, I was talking with Melanie in our business registration last week when I was getting the information from what we require. And she did have a concern on our section here. We require gymnasiums, health spas, and yoga studios all together in one list. So technically a health spa and a yoga studio are two different things. And so if we were going to rewrite it, I would suggest that we separate those out and clarify a little bit better for what a health spa is and not log them all in together. That's what I would suggest.
Jackie, thank you for this. I think that looking at it and trying to figure out, what will encourage legitimate health spa business moving forward, while protecting those that are doing legitimate business and paying taxes to the city is necessary. So I think that looking at that and looking at our code, and then obviously that situation you just said with yoga studios, you don't want to put them in the same category, would be helpful, and obviously run through legal and see where we are, and then let us take a look at it. That would be awesome, I think.
That's what I was thinking of doing, is rewriting everything and getting it thoroughly vetted by legal, and then getting it back to you probably by like July committee. That way it gives us time to go through everything and make sure everything looks good and is correct.
And Jackie, I'd just like to ask a question. As far as, I noticed that some of the cities, or a couple of them, you mentioned that these are conditional use items. Is that something that we can look at as well?
If this committee and the council decide to make that a conditional use, yes, you can.
Thank you.
And I'd like a chance to take a look at all of the what you found, your research, and then let you come back with a recommendation.
Would you like me to email you the information, the definitions?
Yes.
Would you like me to send that out to the council?
Yes, please. That would be great. Thank you.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay. And
Anything else? Jackie, anything else?
No, I will get this started and we'll bring it back to July committee once we have it thoroughly vetted by the legal department. Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie. Moving on to transportation, item number 3, discussion of traffic operations on Elm Street. Mr. Ralph.
Thank you, Gary. Good morning, everyone. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Good. So I'll just share my screen. Okay, can you guys see the slides?
Yes.
So the first item on transportation is the Elm Street discussion. This is a guidance item for us. So just a little bit of a background. The scope for the Highway 9 and Oxbow Road intersection improvement project that's started construction a few months ago includes a new two-way road to be constructed connecting Pleasant Hill at Oxbow down to Maple Street and Elm Street. And that's one project. Another project was an impact fee agreement request by Southern Pines Construction Group. That request was submitted and approved by the mayor and council on March 12th, 2018. So this item today is concerned with this impact fee agreement request. It was discussed at committee in February of this year, where I believe Council Member Palermo initiated the discussion, asking staff to take another look at the impact fee agreement project, which is to convert the existing southbound one-way Elm Street from Maple to Sloan. It was requested by the committee for staff to take another look at it, one-way northbound, keep it one-way southbound, or or make it a two-way as was initially approved in that impact fee agreement in 2018. So transportation staff looked at a couple different options, and staff's recommendation is still to keep the future operation of the existing Elm Street two-way as per the agreement from 2018. Just a couple of factors, that feed into staff's recommendation is, some of the newer property owners, they may have purchased their homes thinking it is going to be a two-way operation there. And we believe that operating Elm Street in both directions would provide significant mobility, connectivity, and safety benefits for the residents and businesses in the historic district, the Grove community, and of course the Mill Village area. We are aware of the concerns from some of the residents nearby for a potential increase in the traffic volumes on Elm Street. Once both projects are complete, that's the 9 and Oxbow project and the Impact Free project. So we are aware, and we have completed our before studies. We know the speeds and we know the number of cars on the streets surrounding the area. So we will keep an eye on it once both projects are open. We have some data in the background that I could share. So we expect the volumes on Elm Street to go up as a result of the increased mobility and connectivity options. It'll mostly be the residents. There may be a potential increase for the regional traffic, but we don't see that as much of an issue. It'll probably not be much of an increase, because when the projects are completed, the operation at 9 and Oxbow intersection and Highway 9 would significantly improve. Here's a graphic of the 9 and Oxbow project. The impact fee project that we are discussing today actually begins at the southern end here. If you could see my cursor on the screen.
And Mohammed, whatever you're trying to share isn't populated.
It's okay. You don't see the Oxbow and 9 intersection improvement graph?
We've got the slideshow with the transportation master slide up.
I think you need to go to view on the PowerPoint.
I'm sorry, screen view. Let me share the screen one more time, see if it picks it up now. How about now? Do you guys see the Elm Street, the 9 and Oxbow project graphic?
Now, just your slide presentation.
Mohammed, I've got a solution. Let me share.
Say what?
I'm going to share.
Okay, let me just do this one more time. Okay, Rob, if you want to try sharing the screen.
Now we can see it. Now you're good.
Okay. So, and these are just some additional graphics in the area in case we need them for the discussion purposes. So, like I said, the staff recommendation is to operate the future Elm Street as a two-way street, as originally planned and approved by the Mayor and Council for safety and multimodal connectivity benefits. But if the Mayor and Council decide to operate Elm Street as a one-way street, not a two-way street, staff strongly recommends to maintain the one-way operation southbound as it is today on that one-way piece of the Elm Street. We just see one potential issue with that is that it's a one-way street southbound today, and we observe traffic going north on that even now. It's very low volume now, so it doesn't cause a huge problem, but in the future, if a lot of residents and the business owners are using this the street to go up and down Elm Street, then if anybody tries to go wrong way on the one-way southbound street, that may cause some potential safety issues. So again, like I said, staff recommendation is to keep the agreement as is and operate the future Elm Street as a two-way street. That's all I have on the topic. Do you have any questions?
Floor is open.
Yeah,
Mohammed?
Muhammad. Go ahead, Matt.
Thank you, Matt. We have more issues traffic-wise in this area than just Elm Street. We've been receiving letters about people visiting the mill. We've been receiving and this has been going on for quite a while, where it's confusing as to how to get there. Gary, I know, is working on potential solutions with some of the electronic technology issues. But I have to wonder if there's not a bigger solution or a bigger thing that needs to happen here. As Maple Street continues to develop, has the orientation of this neighborhood changed? And what I mean by that is, right now, should we look at it? Let me say it a different way. Right now, residents of this area have to exit and enter their neighborhood onto Highway 9 directly at what is about the narrowest and busiest quadrant I can think of. And I wonder if, as we change the orientation, as Maple Street continues to develop, is there a opportunity to look at changing the direction of the east-west streets versus the north-south streets? And I'm not exactly sure how that would be done, Mohammed, but it just seems to me that it might be safer long-term and a better way long-term for the residents to be able to enter and exit their subdivision off, or their area off Oxbow, rather than being forced to make difficult left turns onto Highway 9 at that narrowest and busiest spot. I don't know if it's possible, but it also could help to clarify for people going to the mill, to stay. Let's just assume for a minute Sloan Street, that area was one way coming westbound. You certainly wouldn't have people lost looking for the mill because the street would be one way. Again, I don't know if it's possible, but I think rather than having a discussion just about Elm Street, I think we need to look at traffic flow through that whole area and see if there's a way to solve a number of problems all at the same time. And I think it's something worth looking at.
So yes, these are some of the ideas that came up in discussions before. There are some issues, we just don't know what the future of Maple Street is gonna look like. Currently, it's one way going eastbound, and as it is, we cannot change it going westbound just because the intersection there at Maple and 9. It just cannot handle traffic exiting from Maple onto 9. So that's why it is directed eastbound for now. But in the future, we're just depending upon what happens development-wise in the area. It could be looked at, different options could be looked at as part of some of the developments.
Just, Mohammed, just to clarify my remarks a little bit further, Maple, Sloan, and Mill would be the three streets that I'd be referring to.
Yes, I understand. So Sloan and Mill Street, they are currently signalized, and they are both two-way streets. And Maple is one way going eastbound. And like I said, there is opportunities to look at the operation on Maple Street as part of a future development if and when that occurs. But for now, with the given infrastructure that we have out there, staff's recommendation is to operate the Elm Street as a two-way street.
Mohammed, I have a question. Is Maple one way to Elm, and then is it two-way after that?
Yes, that is correct, because otherwise there wouldn't be a way for the residents further down on Maple to exit the area.
Okay, thank you. So part of it is one way and part of it is two-way.
Yes, and it is really narrow, which works for the area fine.
Mohammed, so the street is going to be the same size either way if it's one or two way, correct?
Yes, when the developer, when they're done with their impact fee project, we'll have two options. Currently, as approved by the mayor and council, it was going to be signed and striped as a two-way street, but we could, sign and stripe it as a one-way street if that's what the city council wants to do.
So it's currently one way.
Southbound, yes.
So what, is it possible, and I know since we don't want to go two way and then go back to one way. I'd rather, if we're going to look at this, keep it one way, do the studies on the one way and go to two way if necessary versus going two way and then going back to one way because it doesn't work. So if there's any question, I believe, in what we're doing here with the street, I prefer to, and I'd like to hear what everybody else has to say, but I prefer to keep it one way, see how it goes, and then if we see that there would be a benefit to the residents to put it two way after we're done with all the construction, then we could do it. Then we could go to two way. But I think switching two way, back to one way, back to two way. I think if it's already one way, and we are going to try something, then I'd rather leave it one way first and then go to two way since the street's going to be the same size.
I'd like to add, if I may, the history on Elm Street. Elm Street was a two-way street. It was switched to a one-way street. Now, so this seems to be a popular topic on Elm. It's two-way, then they talk about and shift it to one-way and two-way and one-way. So it seems as though Elm Street is lost in the abyss somewhere where we can't decide whether it needs to be two-way or one-way. I will also tell you, because I've got a very good friend that lives on the corner of Elm and Sloan, and the people in the neighborhood use it as a two-way street now. So, it could just be that by keeping it one way keeps the Waze or Google map people out of the neighborhood going down to the mill ruins. That might be a perfect response to that, because if Google shows it as a one-way street, if you're from out of town, you're not going to drive two ways on it. But everybody that's lived in Roswell for more than 5 minutes knows that Elm is basically a two-way street. Nobody's going to stop you.
Mohammed, what is the potential? I know that there's a lot of concern among the Mill Village residents, and I understand that about the change. And also, there's some connectivity benefits of making it two-way. What is the possibility or practicality of changing the hours on when it's two-way versus one-way?
Oh my God.
Posting that. So that the residents get the connectivity benefits be outside of rush hours when it might be used by Waze.
Yeah, we could definitely do that. We want to be respectful to the area residents. And we could do that. That is an idea. It's just that then it becomes an enforcement issue in the area where you have a sign saying no southbound or no northbound traffic or no through traffic from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. or 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. But not everybody's going to follow that. And then, of course, the restriction applies to the residents as well. It's not just for the
Right.
for the regional traffic. It's just that as far as staff's opinion, we don't see that becoming a big issue. But if the council wants to try some restricted hours for the two-way operation, or just do the one-way operation 24/7, we could try it either way. It's the traffic volumes are not heavy now. We don't expect them to be very heavy. For these very narrow streets, speeding is probably not going to be an issue. So we could try a couple different things if that's what the pleasure of the council is.
Mohammed, this is Christine. I, given the situation with Waze and Google, I think that I agree with Councilmember Judy that we start off with the one way, keeping it one way, and then analyze the situation once we've had some time. I believe that if we went two-way or even did a combination of time, Google and Waze will they're just going to route people through that area.
Okay, I mean, so I just need some guidance from the committee. I've heard a couple of you.
Gary, do we need to take a vote here, or?
Yeah, I mean, if someone needs to make a motion, I guess, on a direction. Is that what you're looking for, Mohammed?
Yes.
So Mr. Rob,
I think the item is just asking for guidance.
Mr. Rob, I understood from your presentation that regarding Maple Street and Elm Street area, which is a well-established, mainly residential area, today has a current low traffic volume in the area. So how do you envision traffic volume increasing in the future to justify opening the cut-through?
So we don't expect the traffic volumes to go significantly up. It's definitely going to be more because we expect the residents, businesses, business owners, and the visitors of the Middle Village area to actually use the Oxbow and Elm Street to access the area versus Highway 9. So yes, we see how the traffic is going to increase on Elm Street. We just see as the connectivity north and south as a bigger benefit versus the negative of the potential risk of the regional traffic. So like say, for example, a resident or a business owner, they wanted to go visit the city hall or the library. They are going to be able to do that if it's operated as a two-way without having to deal with the Highway 9 traffic. So that's I see that as a quality of life enhancement. But if the residents and the city council, they see it a little bit differently, we have options here. This is not one of those streets that's going to make a huge difference one way or the other to the network. So whatever the city council thinks is good for the community, we could do that. It's just that as a transportation professional, we see connectivity as a good thing. We talked about PTVs a lot yesterday, and there is mixed feelings about that as well. So if somebody in the Mill Village area owned a golf cart, they are going to be able to visit the city hall and the library and the cultural art center. Maybe they park at the city hall and walk over to Canton Street if this is operated as a two-way. But we could do it either way.
Thank you.
So Mohammed, I'm going to motion to keep the street one way and have a review after completion of the project within a time period that you see fit. And that's my motion.
I will second that.
We'll consider this, since we don't vote on items, we'll consider it as a consensus item. So I think, Mohammed, if you could get a consensus on this, does that satisfy what you need?
Yes, Gary.
Okay. So we'll play this out like a motion. So there's a motion on the floor with a second. Any further discussion? Mohammed, do you have any questions about it?
No, I think I'm good, Gary.
Okay, all in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes. Councilmember Zapata is not on screen, so it looks like it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, with one missing. So we'll call that an abstention. All right, so I think we're good. Mohammed, you good?
Yes, I am, Gary. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 4, consideration to award a resurfacing service contract to Allied Paving Contractors Incorporated, ITB 20-118-E, in the amount of $2,426,121. Mr. Ralph.
Thank you, Gary. Can you guys see the resurfacing contract award screen?
No, sir.
Not yet.
Okay, how about now?
Good.
Okay, thank you. So next item up is the resurfacing contract award. This is a yearly contract that we do. So just to give you some background, last year, the annual resurfacing contract, it terminated in January of this year. We put it out to bid again and we received 4 bids. Allied Paving Contractor is the lowest bidder at a little over 2.4 million. You can see the 3 other bids here. And this contract, if you approve, will pave as many roads as possible from the FY20 list that the mayor and council approved on October 15, 2019. And if you approve, this work will be conducted from July to October of the year 2020. So here, hopefully you can see the screen now. This is a map of the city with the roads highlighted and a list of roads with limit. This is for the local resurfacing money that was approved for the fiscal year 20, the current fiscal year. And this is the list the council approved back in October of 19. This is the LMIG list. So we received the LMIG grant from GDOT for the calendar year 20. And here's the list and the map that the city council approved again back in October of 2019. So staff is recommending awarding the resurfacing service contract to Allied Paving. And this is an annual contract. And the financial impact would be, we have the LMIG resurfacing money for the year, almost $1 million, the citywide supplies, and then the citywide resurfacing road improvements, about $1.4 million, almost $1.5 million in there for the fiscal year 20. That's all I have on that one. Do you have any questions?
Mohammed, I have a question. I noticed that the bids were coming in through April of 2020 of this year. Have you seen, compared to prior years, have you seen that we're getting more dollars for more miles for these monies, just because fuel costs have been coming down tremendously, and I would expect to see that we're getting some benefit from that in these repaving areas?
That is a very good point, Councilmember Hall. And yes, that was one of the reasons we terminated the previous contract, just to get a better feel of how the market is doing on the rates. You are right, because of the gas prices. Asphalt is one thing that goes, the price of asphalt is one thing that goes down. So we got better rates on this contract than last year.
And then also, can you explain the LMEG money, how we get that and what our minimum contributions are from the city side and able to receive that money?
Yeah. Yes. So LMIG is the local local maintenance improvement grant that we receive from GDOT every year. Those are the funds that are basically coming out of the gas taxes, and every year GDOT gives all local governments money for resurfacing their roads based on the number of centerline miles each city has. So every year we go through this exercise of verifying our number of centerline miles. It increases, if there's a new development built that included some public streets, that's additional mileage, so that's a good thing. Based on that, we get a little bit more money. So it just depends on how much total revenue they have and how many agencies and everybody applies. And they use just a complicated formula to that. And City of Roswell, we get our share. It's generally about, $700,000 to $1 million, looking at the previous years. And we'll see how the future of that is going to look like. There is just one catch there is the city must match at least 30% on resurfacing. It doesn't matter where we spend it on resurfacing in the city, but we must put in at least 30% of what we expect to receive from GDOT through LMIG in our local resurfacing program. And the city has been generally pretty good. We put in a lot. We actually put in more money in local resurfacing traditionally in the past recent history than we receive from LMIG. So we put in a lot more than 30% that we are required to match to receive the LMIG.
Is there, I thought I understood in one of our conversations about we needed to put 500,000 into the fund at a minimum, or fund at least 500,000 to get 700 or $1 million of LMIG money. Can you speak to that?
Yes, so for the upcoming budget year discussions, FY21, when we were looking at the cuts and everything, I suggested that we need at least 500,000. Our request was $3 million initially for resurfacing, but that got cut to per my suggestion to $500,000. The $500,000 is not going to resurface any of the roads. It's just going to maintain, meaning doing patches and potholes and all the repair work that we generally do in-house using our own staff. So another suggestion was made that if we break that into two halves, $250,000 in the full cycle FY21 budget, and then another $250 at the mid-year time, because we're going to need that 250 into the calendar year 21 to be that 30% match to the LMIG. We got to have something in the year 20.
So there's a risk of not having it up front. Should January come and we can't allocate those funds, then we risk losing the LMIG?
Yes, we do, because that is a required match.
Thank you.
Mohammed?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me? Just one question. We had a letter yesterday or last night from a resident in Willow Springs. Can you let us know when is the remainder of that scheduled in the general schedule?
I'm sorry, I can't remember. Tazi, can you please repeat the question?
Yeah, we received a letter comment last night from a resident in Willow Springs, and part of their road had been resurfaced. They were waiting for the rest of it. What's the schedule for that, and how does it fit into the contract here? If not, what's the expectation?
I believe it's Roxburgh Drive.
Thank you.
Yes, so it is not, Roxburgh Drive is not on the approved list that we approved back in October of 2019. So today is the contract award for construction or resurfacing of what the list that was approved in the upcoming years. So we are, as it looks like through the budget efforts, we're not going to have much local resurfacing money to resurface any of the local roads, but in the future, years, Roxburgh is definitely, high on the list. It's just that it's a big subdivision and it was built in like 3 different phases. So the 3 pieces of road, they have deteriorated at a different pace over the years. Now we're talking, decades ago. Whenever it was built in 3 different phases. And there is issues on Roxburgh. And I wish we had the resources to do it this year, but this is not a good year as it looks like. But it is high on the list, but we will just have to look at it when we are ready to generate the next year's list.
So it might be an item for next year, or it might be an item for one of our quarterly reviews potentially. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
So Mohammed, back to the contract here. How much of the 2,426,121 is material and how much is labor? And that is important because following up the comment of Councilmember Hall about the price of the asphalt moving forward on the next 12 months. I don't know if they're buying futures on asphalt or is on a spot, the price of the asphalt, but definitely, asphalt is going down with the oil, went down with the oil. So how much is material and how much is labor out of this contract?
I unfortunately do not have a breakdown of the total. It is a unit price contract. We do have the unit prices. I just do not have the breakdown.
Okay, so my second question then, hopefully I can get a better answer on this one. How many miles are you expecting to cover with almost $2.4 million contract?
So we have the list of roads that I shared with you.
Total miles, sorry. How many total miles are you expecting to cover with this 2.4 million contract?
So, like I said, this 2.4 million is gonna cover about three-fourths of the total mileage. I can get the answers to those 2 questions at the council meeting for you.
Okay, yes, please bring those 2 data. Thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? Is there a motion?
Motion to move forward.
Motion to move forward by Councilmember Tizer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Hall. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. And is Councilmember Palermo on? Nancy, I can't see him. And it's unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to item number 5, consideration to modify the design contract with WSP USA, formerly WSP Parsons Bricker-Off, for the historic gateway project in the amount of $2,206,716.77. Mr. Ralph.
Thank you, Gary. Can you guys see the historic gateway contract modification screen?
No.
Okay, how about now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, good. So this is the historic gateway contract modification item. This is a vote item, so it would go to the city council. So just to give you some background, the city of Roswell initiated the historic gateway project back in 2010 to improve the safety and operations in the reversible lane section of Highway 9 and the intersection of Highway 9 and Riverside Azalea. We have seen and shared the information on the crash data that we have been seeing for the past 3 decades. So Starting in 2010, the project that we have been working on, the scope of that project includes removal of the reversible lanes. Those are that is an obsolete system, and that causes a lot of confusion and the crashes in the corridor. The scope also includes a new fourth lane on Highway 9 to eliminate the bottlenecks. So the Highway 9 corridor north of the project limit is a 4-lane corridor, and south is also 4 lanes. So this reversible lane piece is a bottleneck. It is currently 3 lanes, so the scope includes a 4th lane. But not necessarily, we don't see it as an additional capacity, because even as of today, we already have 2 lanes in the peak hour. Like in the morning, it's 2 lanes going south. In the afternoon, it's 2 lanes going north. So the 4th lane that we are adding, that's just to improve the safety and the operations in the corridor. The scope also includes a grade separation intersection at Riverside Azalea and Highway 9 with the new traffic signal. And again, that is just an attempt to not do a traditional intersection improvement with turn lanes, which is a much bigger footprint than a grade separation. And that actually leads into the next bullet, which is a roundabout on Riverside. So the grade separation is a narrower footprint than a traditional turn lane intersection. All the turning movements of the intersection are actually now occurring at the Riverside Road roundabout. That's part of the scope. The scope also includes 2 multi-lane roundabouts on Highway 9. And again, those 2 roundabouts work as a pair with a raised concrete median that connects the 2. And that's just to accommodate the left turns safely, because safety is the main focus of the project. The project also includes multi-use paths and sidewalk for pedestrians and bicycles. Currently, the sidewalk that exists in patches along the corridor, it's like 3 or 4 feet wide. There is utility poles in the middle of that 3 or 4 feet wide sidewalk. There is nothing standard about those existing sidewalk infrastructure. So the project adds the multi-use paths and sidewalks. The project scope also includes multiple pedestrian crossings of Highway 9. Currently, there is none. So the 2 roundabouts, they're going to provide crossing opportunities. There's going to be at least 2 more opportunities where the bus stops are to cross pedestrians along Highway 9 with the mark crossing. The project scope also includes the future connection to the future pedestrian and bicycle bridge over the Chattahoochee River. It's all designed to work together. And the project actually also includes some trails and pedestrian bridge on the national park property. That is what we call the national park mitigation. So the land that GDOT needed to construct the project from the national park, in lieu of that land, the national parks required the city to build some trails and a pedestrian bridge on the national park property. You are going to see some more details on the cost of that in a slide a little bit later. So here's a project graphic. This is the graphic that was part of the approved concept report in 2013. This is the graphic that was shared on one of the initial big public meetings in 2012. It's still the same. This is the concept that we have been designing since 2013, and we are 7 years into it. Next slide. So we have, from the very beginning of the project, we have tried our very best to, cater for the interests of all stakeholders while still, trying to accommodate the purpose of the actual project, which is the safety and the operational improvements. So some quick highlights, we have the Citizen Advisory Committee before in the concept phase that included residents, business owners, and other stakeholders from the historic district. Many site visits and stakeholders meetings occurred back then, and individual meetings with property owners. Actually, that's still an ongoing thing. Whoever requests, we go out and meet with them, explain the project to them, try and explain the impact to their property. That is an ongoing thing. So here's just a list of all the public outreach efforts. This is not the individual meetings, but all the public advertised announced meetings. You would see a focus in 2011 a lot, because that's where we were working on the concept. What did the residents and the public and the businesses, what did they want to, and the city council, of course, what was their vision of the corridor? All that information, all that input that was gathered at all these meetings back in the day were put into the concept that got approved. And then you see, fewer public meetings since then, since the concept got approved in 2013. You see a heavy focus, 30 plus public meetings for T-Splost, and this is a T-Splost eligible project. It was listed as one of the projects on there, so we did a lot of public outreach in 2016, and then the most recent public meeting was in November 2018. These are all the agencies that are involved, of course: City, GDOT, National Park Service, Federal Highway, who's reviewing our environmental document, and MARTA, who operates the bus service along the corridor. So this is just a quick, short version of what any project has as far as the project phases go. So, it starts with a concept, what do we want the project to look like? And once we have that, we start the preliminary design work on that. And once we are to a certain extent into it, that's when we can start the right-of-way negotiations, try and acquire the land that's going to be needed to build the project. And at the same time, the environmental process starts, which is, of course, a very complicated and lengthy process, especially when GDOT or federal funds are involved. This is, of course, a combined funding from different agencies. And then, the finalization of the engineering design effort, and that bullet is the item today, actually. So the design work we have been working for the past many years, 7 years. We need to finalize that effort and get it ready for the year 2023 construction. So that's a short version of the process, to show the city council, to show the public. But next two slides are what staff works on. So this is GDOT's required process to follow when we use state or federal funds. So it looks like a lot, and there's just so many little boxes, so many little studies and steps to be taken, and approval process and studies. So that's what we follow, and not every step here that you see has to be followed for every project, but just the historic gateway corridor is just so complicated and complex that most of it actually applies to this project. So that's what makes it more complicated. And if somebody wonders why it's taken so long, well, this is why it's taken so long, because it's a complicated, lengthy process, and due to the project complexities, a lot of it applies, and it just takes a lot of time to work on that. So this is the screen, and that was the preliminary plan process that was completed a couple years ago, and now we are well into the next screen, which is the final plan process. We started that a couple years ago when we got some funding for design from ARC, and as planned, as anticipated, we needed a lot more money to finish the design process. So that's the topic of today. We need the money as anticipated to finish the design. Just a more quick background. These are all the committee meetings, work sessions, and the city council meetings that an item related to the historic gateway project was on the agenda, either for guidance or vote And of course, we know our committee and council meetings are all open to public meetings. So this is just a list. We recently put that list on the city website as well. So WSP is the city's consultant, and their proposal to finalize the design is a little over 2.2 million. This amount represents the remaining activities that we need, the city is required to do as per the agreements with GDOT. Design was the city's responsibility, so we need to finalize this design and get a set of construction plans over to GDOT for them to then take lead on the construction, which is scheduled to start in the year 2023. So when I talk about city's responsibility on the design, the city signed an agreement. It's called a project framework agreement. GDOT requires that for every project whenever there is GDOT funding involved. So per that agreement, the city agreed to do the design and have a construction set of plans ready for GDOT. So, and one question that was asked, that how come we didn't include these initial, if we knew we needed to finalize the design, why did we not include it at the beginning in the contract 10 years ago? Well, 10 years ago, we just didn't know what the public and the city wanted on this project. If we had required our consultant to give us a fee for the full process, the preliminary and finalizing of the design 10 years ago, they would have had a much higher contingency in there to just care for any future possible outcomes. So this way of procurement is actually saving city money because we just didn't do it 10 years ago. So this was the plan all along. So like I said, the start of construction by GDOT is scheduled for the year 2023. So here's a financial snapshot as of today. So this is every penny that's been spent on the project by the city, by GDOT, and the grants from ARC, or the future possible expenditures, again, by the city, by GDOT, or by ARC. So this is a full snapshot. It has everything you're going to see. So I'm going to spend a couple minutes on this one and go line by line here so we all understand what this is. So the first item, first I could tell you the green color is the City of Roswell's commitment or the responsibility as agreed. Blue is the other funding, like it's mostly just ARC grant that we have gotten or we have applied for. Yellow is the state DOT's, either their commitment or what they have spent already. So I'll start with the first one. The existing contract with the consultant WSP is 2.1 million. This was the contract that was signed back in 2010 timeframe. So that's been spent already for the services they have provided to us. The proposed contract modification, which is the topic of discussion today, the request is a little over 2.2 million. We just rounded it off to 2.3. So if you approve it, this is what the city will spend on finalizing the design and get a construction set of plans ready for GDOT. Roswell's match to the ARC pending funding request. So if you remember back in October, September of 2019, the city applied for a construction grant of 8 million through ARC, and it required a $2 million match. And we suggested to the council back then that even for this match money, the 2 million, we have some possible grant opportunities that we could go after later. The next one is the T-SPLOST funds. Like I said, it's a T-SPLOST eligible project. So that 2.8 million in T-SPLOST is still available. It's at the discretion of the mayor and council. However, they want to use that 2.8 million to enhance Historic Gateway. That was like the language used in the T-SPLOST documentations and public meetings. Next one is the two blue lines are the 2018 ARC grant. You know, we applied, the city applied and received 800,000 in 2018, and we've been spending that since then on the design process. And other ARC grant that I just mentioned, that's a pending request, we applied for it in October 2019. Roswell applied for it to ARC for $8 million, and we are still waiting to hear the outcome of that, if that's going to be approved. The next one is the National Park Service mitigation design. So like I mentioned a few slides ago, the city agreed to do some mitigation within the national park property because of the land that was needed to construct the project from the national park. So the cost of design of that is that this is a separate contract that the city approved. And for $591,000, that is what's being spent. It's been a few years. I guess we have spent a little bit more than half of that. And once the design is done, the city is responsible to construct those mitigation. There's a pedestrian bridge there. We had several committee and council items actually in 2019, if you remember, talking about the look of the pedestrian bridge and all those conversations. So the city is responsible to construct those as well. And that is an item to be approved by the mayor and council sometime in the future. The estimated cost as of today is $1.1 million. The next two are the yellow, the GDOT commitment, GDOT responsibility. So GDOT committed to seeing all the agreements and all the confirmations from the city. GDOT committed about $11.6 million for right-of-way. That was 18 months ago. Their estimate has gone up and they have added more money. Now it's at $13 million that GDOT started spending about 18 months ago. Back in December of 2019, we heard they had spent almost $3 million of the 13 on the right-of-way acquisition. But that was about 5-6 months ago. The last yellow is the GDOT commitment for construction. So GDOT has agreed in writing to us that if that ARC grant, the $8 million is approved and the city finds money to match that, they committed to add the $24.5 million. That's the remaining that's needed for construction. They have made a commitment for that for the year 2023. So the total cost of the expected cost, you could see it's about a little over $54 million. I have that the T-SPLOST available money typed in a little differently. It's $2.8 million. It's typed a little differently because I did not include in this total, because that's money that's still available to the city council, whatever they want to do with it. So I did not add it because it could actually pay for some of the other items listed here. So that's why I didn't add it in there. So looking down in the legend, again, I have the same colors in Roswell, GDOT, ARC. So the total splits into these numbers, and this is the worst case scenario for Roswell. The cost to Roswell of the total is about 15% of the total. So that's a pretty awesome deal, looking at the numbers that others are paying into this. So I want to clarify two of my footnotes here. So the third green from the top, if you see, it has an asterisk to it where I'm talking about the Roswell match to the ARC pending funding request. So if that's successful, if you get that match money from elsewhere, that'll actually bring down the city's total share to $6 million from $8 million, and that would be like an 11% of the total project cost. So that makes it an even better deal. We hope we get it. Then I have 2 stars next to the T-SPLOST funding that's available. So I'm just saying that that's not included in the total cost or the percent share. It's because the city council can still use it for whatever. The T-SPLOST language said enhancements of the historic gateway project, but it could be used legally for anything on the project. You could use it for the topic today, which is finalizing the design. You could use it for that match to the ARC funding if you don't get it from any other sources. You could use it for bearing the utilities. That was one of the thing listed in the actual T-SPLOS language, or put some amenities along the corridor, or put it towards the national park mitigation construction. The city council has that flexibility here, so there is still some flexibility left. So I believe yes, that's all, and you may have questions, but anyways, I'll just quickly do the last slide as well. Staff is recommending approving the contract modification for WSP. It is extremely important for us to not pause the project, because if we do, we would miss the 2023 construction deadline. And GDOT has been actively working on the right-of-way. That is a sign, that is a message to the city that they are serious about the 2023 deadline. So it would be a very strong staff recommendation to continue with the design process. And we understand the financial tough times and the financial crisis, but this is just a very important project. A lot has been spent and a lot of efforts have been put in, and so that's I guess that's all I have on that. So I'll take any questions you might have.
Floor is open.
So, Mohammed, I have a question. So then, up to today, how much money have been spent on design total?
So I hope you can still see the colorful matrix with the numbers on it on the shared screen. So the very first one, the existing contract with the consultant, we have spent the 2.1, the full contract amount, plus ARC grant. That's the first blue line. That's the 800,000 that we received from ARC, not local money, but ARC money back in 2018. That was 800,000. That's being spent, and we have almost we're out of money basically in this project. To continue with the design effort, we need more money that's being requested today. And I'm sorry, and the national park mitigation, that's a part of it. So we have spent more than half of that, $591,000.
My question was on design. So on design is 2.9 up to date?
2.9 plus the design of the mitigation. I see that as part of the project. So I'd say maybe $400,000 of the 591. So 3.2 million total. Not
3.3 million then.
Yeah, and out of the 3.2, 800,000 is ARC money.
Okay, so 3.3 million spent up to date on design.
Yes.
Accurate number. Okay, and now you are requesting another 2.2 million or more?
A little over 2.2. It's rounded off to 2.3.
Okay, instead of 2.3 more. Okay. So this brings us to 5.6 million total design cost. So, so I have a couple of questions. How much will be the total construction cost?
So the total construction cost, not looking at the right-of-way that needs to be acquired, is $34.5 million. So that would be the commitment from GDOT for the 24.5 million. The pending grant request we have to ARC, the 8, and then the city's match that could come from other sources too. So that makes it a total of $34.5 million of construction.
Okay, so then if I do some simple math here, I come with like the total design, the 5.6 million, represents 16% of the total construction cost of 34.5 million. So is this 16% on design a normal percentage of the construction?
Yes, for a project, for a complicated project like this, where there's a lot of effort and very complex situations that need to be resolved, for a project like this, yes, that is a reasonable cost. It is higher than any other normal project where things are very easy, normal, easy to anticipate. And please understand, when a project design work lasts this long as this one has, for all the good reasons, this has been an active project from day one. You could see that from the other screen I shared, where I showed the committee and the council meetings. That tells you that this has been a very active project for the past 10 years. There's been committee or council items every few months on it. So the point is, yes, when a project lasts this long, yes, cost goes up. There's a lot of studies. There's a lot of new requirements that were not originally anticipated. The requirements change, the policies, the guidelines from different agencies, they change. Many times special studies, they expire. And stuff like this happens all the time. For a complicated project like this, it is pretty normal.
Okay.
Well, I have a question. We're using the term design, and as I look through all the invoices that were spent on the project, they seem to be for other things that, in my mind, that I would call design. Can you address that? I mean, to me, a design is just the design of the project, but I understand that we have to do things for the national parks and other entities. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so everything that is being done is a required step of the design process to get the set of construction plans ready for GDOT by 2023 and have all the necessary permits, have all the necessary studies done, and so that's everything is included. And those two very busy slides that I shared before, you would see a lot there that you may not think that it qualifies to be designed, but it's there, and that is the preliminary and the final design and what it's called, and it includes a lot more than we could generally think about. And the point is, again, not everything applies to every project. For simpler projects, most of those very busy slides, the process, the studies and the steps that have to be taken, they don't necessarily apply. But for this historic gateway project, because of the complexity of the corridor, most of it does apply. So it includes a lot more than what may seem to us that it's not designed, but it is part of the process to get a construction set of plans ready to start construction.
Mohammed, can you speak a little bit about the history of the selection of WSP, in their involvement in the project, and I guess how they are going to take us to the next level, their experience in building a project like this that needs to be context sensitive, and helps. I know that from here on out, a lot of this is where the details really matter, and I just want to get a little bit more information on what to expect in this next as we move forward in this phase.
Yes. Again, time, of course, it matters. So when we hired the consultant back in 2010, I believe, the name of the company was different. It was PB. And so that consultant was selected, of course, out of the team of different consultants who submitted their qualifications. That's how we select consultants for every project based on their qualifications. So the team that PB had at that time Those were the nationally qualified people for similar design work for the roadway projects, the bridges, and they had a huge context sensitive design team as well. Over the years, PB was bought by WSP. They changed the name twice. Most of the team is still there, but of course there is changes in personnel, and we review and work with them on a routine basis. So we still believe WSP is a great firm. We believe our money is in good hands, and we have a good qualified team to continue the effort. And WSP is only designing the project. When GDOT start construction, of course, they're going to hire a contractor firm. So we still feel very confident with the WSP firm that they have the qualified personnel to take us through. Otherwise, you wouldn't see the staff recommendation here today to, go with the same firm. Did that answer your question, Councilmember Bilsey? Kind of?
Yeah, yes, it does. But I'll just be really honest. If I go to their website and I look at some of the projects that they are showcasing, I step away wanting to know more about what they're going to do, in Roswell in this next phase.
So, what they're going to do is going to look no different than what we have been seeing. I'll just go back to the other slide. The concept that the city created and GDOT approved in 2013 is what our consultant has been designing. So that's not going to change. The roundabouts are not going to go anywhere. Roundabout is not going to be replaced by a traffic signal. The grade separation is not going to change into anything else. Everything as it looks on that graphic is going to look the same. They're not changing anything. They can't really change anything now. It's just that's what we have been working on for all these years.
Okay.
Mohammed, real quick. So let's go back to the numbers that are on the screen here. So obviously things change, but looking at this right now, the worst case scenario for us, if we do not receive the ARC grant, would be 15% of the cost of this project.
Actually, you can make it even less if you use the T-SPLOST money towards the topic for today, or construction of the national park mitigation.
Okay, but worst case scenario is 15%.
Yes, sir.
So that's 85% paid for outside of Roswell money.
Yes, sir.
Best case is 11.
Yes.
So seeing as the instability of what's all's going on right now in the world, if we stepped away from this project right now, is it possible that we would not get 85% of this project paid for?
Oh yeah, that's good. So yeah, if the city changes their mind, or even if the city says this is a tough year, we can't fund this contract modification this year, that just puts all the processes on a hold for 1 year, and that sends a very wrong message to GDOT that's been spending. They are continuing to work. They are still spending the money on the right-of-way based on city's commitment. So any kind of confusion on Roswell's end will send a very wrong message. And the state has a lot of needs. They have a lot of requests at all times. There's always other projects where they can very easily take their money. What GDOT wants to do is they want to build projects. They don't want to keep spending money on something that may or may not get built. Of course, that wouldn't make any sense. They wouldn't want to continue to acquire the right-of-way at the cost of $13 million when Roswell is not willing to spend another 2.3 or allocate another 2.3 on the project to fulfill Roswell's commitment. So if it derails, we'll probably not have that kind of cooperation from the state DOT in the future. I see that as a big red flag.
Thank you.
So, so back in January 2020, and I request information since details always matter, and I request information regarding invoices, payments, change orders, contracts regarding the accountability of the 3.3 million already spent in design, to see how we're going to spend the next 2.3 millions in the future. And still up to today, 4 months, even though I request 4 months in advance of this budget season, I still don't have details of how the money was spent, of the 3.3 million for the last 7 years on design. So since details always matter, I think that this information have to be produced. I request this to our city administrator, Gary Palmer, 4 months ago. And as elected official of the taxpayers and residents of Roswell, I'm still waiting on this information. And now here we are toward the end of the budget process. Transportation department coming here to us for more money, another 2.3 million of taxpayers' money. And still, I don't see details to account for the 3.3 million, how was spent, and receiving invoices, payment, change orders, and contracts. So I just want to state this for the record, since details matter, and always, and especially when we're talking about another $2.3 million to finish the design. So so I think that that is important, not only for me, but for the residents and taxpayers of Roswell, to release this information. And still up to today, the city administrator, Gary Palmer, have not produced such a information.
What do you need, Marcelo? I've asked you several times what you needed and told you how to get it, and you're not doing it, so I don't know how else I can help.
So I think the city
Are
administrator
there any other questions on this item?
So the city administrator totally knew about invoices, payment, change order, and contract of the design, accounting for $3.3 million. So that is more than clear what I want, and it's stated on emails. So I still didn't receive any of, have not been produced this information to present to elected official.
Okay, any other questions on this item?
Yes, Mohammed, do you anticipate more requests for additional or further design once this contract design request is done, or can you speculate on anticipating to request more funds for different design items?
As of today, Councilmember Hall, we are confident that there's not going to be any more requests because, again, like I said, we are so far into the design process. We can, now see what has been done and where we need to get to and when we need to get there. That's the year 2023 I'm talking about. So as of today, we are confident that this $2.3 million or the contract modification, the exact amount is 2.2 and some change, is going to cover everything we need from this point on to get the construction set of plans ready for GDOT. So I think we're good.
So this is actually, it's not design, it's getting a construction set of plans based on the design. Is that what it is?
It's finishing the design that's being worked on for the past 7 years to get a set of construction plans ready for GDOT. That construction set of plans is the design. I remember I brought that set to one of those meetings. It's like a 600 sheets set, and we need a lot more added to that. So that whole thing is the design, and that is the set of plans that we're going to get to GDOT to construct in the year 2023.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion?
Motion to move this forward.
Councilman Floyd, do you have a question? You're not on my screen here. The floor is open if there are more questions. I can't see everybody.
Hey, he looks like he's muted.
Yeah, you can't hear him. He's talking, but can't hear him.
Looks like he's gonna dial in. One moment. Yeah, we see you trying to dial in.
Nancy, is he showing muted on yours? No. Okay. Olivia, it looks like he's trying to call you.
Yeah, he's trying to call Livia, looks like.
Okay, well, we'll see if we can get these tech issues worked out. I guess we can come back to this item. We'll move on to item number 6, notification of emergency procurement for repairs on Old Alabama Road. Mr. Ralph.
Thank you, Gary. Can you guys see the screen that says emergency procurement summary?
Yes.
Good, thank you. So this is you had heard about this one in emails. We did an emergency procurement to do some work on the Old Alabama Road. That's between Holcomb Bridge and Riverside Road, where that new development is being built by a developer, and that development included this roundabout in the public right of way. So there were some issues with the construction methodology that they used. They didn't do certain things right, so that started causing a depressed area in the pavement. We washed it for a few months. There was some repair done back in November 2019. Then it reappeared again. So we just, in April, I believe actually in March, that just gotten to the point where we didn't feel comfortable on the public safety on that street. So we shut it down and issued this emergency procurement to get the repairs done. So we got 3 bids, and you could see the one at the top, Lori's Transportation, that was about $70,000 based on the estimate for things like that. When you are going to open up a road, you just don't know what you're going to find down there. So we just do the best we can on the estimate side. So you see the other 2 bids that we received as well. So we went through the process, did the repair work using an outside and external contractor, not the developer, a different contractor. That was Lori's Transportation. And we also hired a third-party engineering firm to do some testing and be on site when we did that, to give us their professional opinion. So here is the before picture. This is the patchwork that you see. The developer tried to fix it, but it reappeared, the depressed area. So that told us there is something going on underneath. So we just open cut it, and the hole that we had to dig was actually a lot bigger than what's shown here. Anyways, we went down, repaired, and just refilled and resurfaced. So it's all good now. We are working with, the third-party engineering report basically suggested to us that it was the methodology that the developer used for the construction of the roundabout that caused the issue. So we are working with our legal department. It's the legal department working on the recovery from the developer, and we'll just assist them as needed. And a little bit of a good news is that the cost for the completion of the project that we originally anticipated to be 70,000, it was actually 51,000 and a little more change. And then $3,000, a little over $3,000 for the consulting services. So total 54,000. We're gonna pursue reimbursement from the developer for the full amount, which is $54,469.54. So do you have any questions?
Floor is open. And this is just an informational item. We're not looking for action. We're just letting you know. Floor is open.
Hey, Gary. If there are no comments, I just want to go back to the other one. I think we may have had the item fixed. 1 second.
No.
Is there any other questions or comments on this item?
So but my question is, where are we on the process to recuperate from the developer of the complex, the 54,469? Where are we on the process?
So that's the legal department's lead, like I said, and it'll get worked on. I'm exactly not sure where we are. The purpose of the item today was just for your information that this is what happened, this is how it got repaired, and that is the next step to pursue reimbursement from the developer. If legal has an update, maybe they can provide it.
Do you have a sense if the developer has to pay this or if the developer's insurance company would pay it?
That I don't know.
Does the developer still have any valid bond that the city can execute?
I'll have to look into that. Those are all good questions, but they are like the next step. If we have issues in recouping the cost from the developer, then those are the things we could get into. We have done what we needed to do, which was to hire a third party, not a city's opinion on the matter, but a third party's opinion. We have the report, which is stamped, which clearly states that, okay, it's the methodology that the developer used. So I think we are in a good shape to continue towards the recovery. If there is issues with that, we can look into what other options do we have.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Thanks, Mohammed. Moving on to item number 7, notification of emergency procurement and cost recovery for traffic signal repairs at the intersection of Woodstock Road and Vince's Way, resulting from a dump truck vehicle crash with a city-owned traffic signal. Mr. Rolfe.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Okay, no, I'm good. My comments were for the gateway one, not this one. Thank you. It said earlier I was, it said I was muted by the host, so luckily they gave me a call and I can use.
Okay, we'll come back to that item after this. Mohammed, go ahead.
Can you guys see the Woodstock crash screen now?
Yes.
So this is the other incident that happened on Woodstock Road going north, kind of where the Blessed Trinity Church and the Queen of Angels School is, and that's we have the city owns a traffic signal there. So in April, a dump truck who forgot to put their dump bed down, they hit the traffic signal mast arm and twisted the pole. So that was, of course, another public safety issue. It stood on the ground, but it was badly damaged. So we shut down the road and we issued we procured the emergency services by a contractor to get the repairs done. I'll just go over the highlights of that. So we had to hire a contractor, and then our staff did a lot of work because we couldn't get all the necessary, the services that we needed from the contractor. So the staff did a bunch of work on that too. And another good point is that we had a spare mast arm in our storage yard, so we were just able to bring that to the site and get it installed by the contractor. So we use the emergency procurement to to get the repair done. This is just a picture of the pole being replaced. And there's just some more work that is associated. You could see the damage on this this picture. So it got hit pretty hard. So the initial estimate for the contractor's work was $7,500, but half the work was done by the city staff. So that cost came down to $3,430. So we are again, working with the legal department to get the reimbursement from the dump truck company, their insurance carrier. So the cost we are going to recover is not just going to be the $3,400. It's going to be more than that because the city put in the material and the city put in some work. So we are going to include that in our claim as well. So the total claim is going to be $10,238. So and if we get the full recovery, which we should, city's cost would be $0. So again, legal department is pursuing the reimbursement, and we are just assisting them in providing the information. Do you guys have any questions?
Floor is open for any questions. Thanks, Mohammed. Moving back to item number 5, consideration to modify the design contract with WSP USA, SP Parsons Brickeroff, the historic gateway project in the amount of $2,206,716.77. Councilman Fleur, would you have comments on this?
Yes, and can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. So Mohammed, I thought you did a great job with this presentation. You provided a lot of detail of every single public meeting, all that different history. I think that's very helpful for the public. I think that's very helpful for the elected representatives on this call to understand that history in those meetings that occurred. It's my understanding, based on the public emails that I've seen, that the approximately $3 million that's already been spent. There was a question regarding just what were the exact things spent on? Was it a single retainer that wasn't clear? Are there reimbursed travel costs? What adds up to that? And if anything, given it's about $3 million, I feel that probably would have been quicker than even just all the great detail that was provided in this presentation. And so, Mr. Palmer, you said you emailed telling them what to do, which is basically to go do an open records request. Elected representatives need information to make educated decisions. For example, in this year's budget, there's $1.2 million for new switches. That was something that initially I had concern with. I didn't understand. I wasn't even sure if I fully supported. I was able to ask staff details. So Mr. Fisher was able to walk through all my different questions. I didn't have to go through a different process, go through open records requests to be able to just get information on something we're voting on. So I think this is a project that's very important. I do wish and I do hope there are opportunities to make the mass and scale smaller and to make it more narrower. That being said, I'm 100% committed to making sure we get rid of that suicide lane, and I absolutely am excited to see the increased pedestrian safety that will occur. So there's that side of it. But anytime council is being asked to spend an additional $2.3 million, we should be able to know exactly how that previous $3 million was spent. And that's something from those 4 emails that I saw from Councilman Zapata where he CC'd the rest of council. I haven't seen those answers. And so that's what I feel is important that we see prior to this coming to council. Just exactly what were the different line item costs that added up to the approximately $3 million that's already been spent.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Is there a motion?
I want to be clear. Is that going to be provided, or is that going to be withheld from this council? And this council be asked to spend $2.3 million without having any idea on the details of how the previous $3 million has been spent.
Yeah, I think the city clerk's working on it. I think there needs to be some clarification about what was being requested. The original issue was that it was going to take an inordinate amount of time to put all that information together. That's a lot of documents, a lot of contracts, years of stuff that we would have to go through to pull. So that was the reason why we couldn't get it together. Then we had the pandemic hit. So yes, we're working on it right now. I don't know how long it's going to take. I would expect Marley to get back with you on that. But yeah, the information is being gathered. And I believe, Councilmember Judy, you made a motion to move this forward.
I just have a question. Councilmember Zapata, the finance department easily pulled just a summary report of the allocations of the funds of the 3.1 million for me. It doesn't have the detail of the invoices, but is that what you're looking for each? How much detail do you need? Because
great question, because on my if you go to the bottom of the email you received yesterday, I believe, my email and the reply, you will see that it back in January was very clear that I requested invoices, payments made, change orders made, and contracts signed regarding the 3.3 millions on design. So maybe what you're referring about the invoices might be one of the parts of the 4 parts that I requested. So,
right,
invoices,
that
payment
took
made,
like a minute to do, so they can do
change
that.
orders, and contracts. So I knew. So this is what I asked 4 months ago. So I gave the city administrator 4 months to produce this information. So I was not improvising last minute. So I with time I requested, and I'm still waiting.
Well, I will clarify that the public information requests are handled solely through the city clerk's office, not through the city administrator's office. We are working on getting the information together. Once we understand exactly what we need to get and how long it's going to take to get it and putting the team together to pull it, as soon as we can get that together, we'll get it to everybody. Is there a motion on the item?
Already a motion on the floor, Gary.
Councilor G, was that you that made the motion to move forward?
It's a motion to move forward, in hopes when we get to council, we have the information needed, requested, and, if council at the time doesn't foresee that we have the correct or the information needed, then we can always defer it, but motion to move forward.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by the mayor. Any further questions or discussion? And I don't know who's sharing their screen. All right. All in favor, please raise your hands. And it is unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to item number 8. Discussion to standardize and implement a system of electronic records related to all city issued permits. Councilmember Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. I recently requested some information on a permit that was requested from the Transportation Department. And what I discovered is that Community Relations is able to, or has electronic records of permits, and they can pull the history by property or has electronic information, whereas Transportation does not. It's a manual process. So I was not able to get the information that I needed unless we went through a manual, very labor-intensive process. So I asked the question, and I just want to bring this up to understand why the city cannot go to an electronic program where permits are applied for electronically, online. There's DocuSigns, there's all kinds of electronic ways to get legal signatures if needed, attached documents, etc. And I just wanted to bring it up for discussion and see any other input from other council people, from Director Ralph, as far as how that could work in transportation, if there could be a uniform system for the city that all departments use the same system. I just think it would be more efficient, save on labor, save on costs.
So I just quickly explain how it's done. So the transportation department issues the right-of-way encroachment permits for utilities, for construction, and for small cell technology. Those are the three that we issue permits for. We do have a manual process for those. Uh, it would be nice to have an electronic process, but the point is, so far, we have not had any issues in years that I can remember where we respond to open records requests all the time involving permits. Who did we issue the permits to? And our process is manual, but we do have a filing system. If somebody asks in February of 2013, we need permits from February of 2013. We can go to the file, pull out the permits, make a copy, or scan it in an email. What we cannot do is the request that Councilmember Hall is referring to, that involved somebody saying that, did you ever deny a permit for that property, their neighbor's property, ever? So yeah, we couldn't find that because they didn't say a date. They said, have you ever denied? And if they submitted a permit, we don't know if a permit was ever submitted for that address. We don't know if we ever denied it. If he had approved it, then we would have it on our system, and somebody would have to give us a date range for us to be able to find it. So that's the one instance where I feel that, yeah, we could use an electronic system. But generally, department has never made a request for electronic permitting system because the system we have is working fine. There is a lot of other requests we have made over the years to go do electronic inventory of our infrastructure and a lot of other things. Electronic permitting system for the permits that we issue in transportation, that's a lower staff priority. What we do now, it's been working fine. It's still pretty efficient, actually. Our turnaround time is just a couple of days. We have posted those blank application permit forms online on the city's website. Anybody could, print, fill it in, email, and we route it internally for signatures. And in a couple of days, we have the permit issued. So it is a need, but it's not a higher priority. If the city were to offer money for some electronic system, there's a couple other ones staff would want to do first before we get to this one.
So community development, I understand, has the technology and they track theirs electronically. Is that not a system that can be shared?
If it can be, we'd be open to that. It's just that we didn't have a problem to solve, but if that system is capable, then we wouldn't mind being a part of it. One difference that exists today is that I believe ComDev charges a fee for the permits, the right-of-way encroachment permits for utility and construction that we issue, we do not charge a fee, but that doesn't mean anything, I guess, here. But we could look into being a part of that system if it works. It's just that we never thought of it because our current system is efficient and it works fine for us.
Well, technology is there to improve and make our lives better. And technology has been growing by leaps and bounds. So I would like to see the city take advantage of technology when it's available over manual processes, where we might be able to get some, or we will get some efficiencies, no doubt.
So thank you, Councilmember Hall, to bringing this to our attention. I think there is room for improvements, and there is not much cost involved or time. It's just as simple of integrating a couple of systems or, community development with transportation and make it more efficient and effective and avoid any delays or mistakes by doing manually. I think it's a great opportunity to make an improvement of what we have if it doesn't take too much resources and time to get it done. Thank you.
And I understand we're in the middle of dealing with a lot of things, but I did want to bring this I wanted to put this out there so that we were all aware, because we don't always have a chance to talk together. So I wanted the other council members to know what my concerns were and thoughts for the future as far as improving that technology.
So we look into the, if the system has the capability, we can look into integrating if it's a no cost or a very low cost integration. Yeah, we can definitely look into that.
Thank you.
Mohammed.
Any other questions on this item? Moving on to item number 9, discussion regarding parking along Riverside Road. Councilmember Hall.
Thank you. So we were in the news, and there was a lot of information on the parking on Riverside Road, and it took me a little bit off guard because I guess I didn't know that parking wasn't allowed and then allowed, and now it's not allowed. While I understand that we can't, that it's national park property that the teenagers or the youth was gathering on, and we don't have jurisdiction there. I did want to address the parking along that stretch of Riverside Road. And I'd like to explore opportunities where we could create some parking. I think it was not well thought out to allow parking to have cars having to drive on the curbs and on the grass and other areas to avoid being in the bike lanes. That probably wasn't well thought out, allowing the parking. But I'd like to see what opportunities there are to create some parking. Whether the road is wide enough to restripe it and have parking available on one side of the road. Whether there's opportunities to do little cutouts and have parking for a few cars in different parts of the road. So I wanted to bring that discussion up because we did get emails from a lot of residents, rightfully so, about the way that people were forced to park over the curbs on grassy areas, on different areas. But we also got emails from residents that were supportive of having some parking available. So I'd like to have that discussion. Perhaps Director Ralph, you can look into what kind of parking opportunities there may be, if we can do any cutouts, parking on one side, parking in certain sections, something like that.
I'm wondering if this is something that's at all addressed with the river master plan. And so, because ultimately the river master plan potentially is going to have more activities, parking lots, and also how to really activate, more areas. So I'm wondering if that's something that would be discussed in there and create the opportunity for the public to weigh in, as well as for council to kind of review and weigh in. That's one area I'd be curious to see info on.
I agree with Councilman Palermo. This is an age-old problem. I mean, the mayor and I were speaking about this the other day. This goes back to my high school days, I believe, her high school days and beyond. This is something that we've been looking at on Riverside for a long time. I think the River Parks Master Plan will give us that opportunity to do it. I think that city administration, our staff jumped on this really quickly, put together a group of folks to look at this. And, I think this is a very complex situation that needs to be looked at holistically. And I appreciate Gary and the group looking at this the other day when this arose.
Yes, I would agree, and thank you for taking action so quickly. I think there was an effort to make signage consistent along Riverside Road, but we did not anticipate the consequences and how creative people were going to be about parking. One thing about Riverside is that all areas are not the same. There's a portion of Riverside that is bordered by City Park, and some of it is not. So I do think it's something that we need to look at holistically and treat it possibly treat it differently in different areas.
So I I agree with Councilmember Hall that we need to find a short-term solution. Master plan is wonderful, but it's a long-term, and but I think we should look into short-term solution for existing actual usage of the Riverside area. So I will support Council Member Hall to look for a short-term solution for parking options, especially now we are getting to summertime and probably get more usage the area. So I think that it's good to resolve an issue that exists today, and maybe the short terms easy solution or not that complicated solution, and that we can take care right now.
Let me say this, I cannot support any staff time on a short-term solution. This is a situation that has been going on that I know of for 45 years. And Councilmember Judy is correct. I went down there in high school. Now, I was very fortunate in that my parents lived 1 block off of Riverside Road, so I could walk down the hill and go to the river. I didn't need to park. It was such a problem back then that we put up the no parking signs. And it's been years, it's been well over 30 years since no parking signs were up. Now, what has happened over the last 30 years is kids have gotten creative. They've started parking actually in front of my parents' house. There was a lot of trash involved. There was a lot of nakedness involved. There was a lot of drinking involved. And all of that would end up in my parents' front yard because they live a block off the river. So then Martin's Landing had to get creative with no parking signs within their subdivision, which they have to this day. So what happened was not a conspiracy. What happened was our transportation folks knew they had to replace the signs, and they went out and they tried to make them consistent with Willio Road. They didn't understand the unintended consequences because it hasn't been an issue for the last 30 years. So they weren't here to understand what changing those no parking signs has done. We've changed the signs back, and I'll tell you what will happen because I've watched it for years. People will park, whether it's a fly fisherman or a teenager wanting to go to the shoals, they will park down at Don White, they'll carry their coolers down Riverside and go into the shoals. They might park over at Island Ford to get to the shoals. There's also a small Fulton County parking lot on old Riverside Road that they park at. So I will not support any short-term solutions by staff. I think that in the long term, it should be looked at as far as parking on our River Parks Master Plan. And I know that we will be looking at that right now.
So my definition of short time was 10 years, since we've been already 30 years waiting for a solution. Maybe my short-term definition was
We've had a solution for 30 years, council members Zapata. Don't mince my words.
Any further discussion on the item?
Now, let me just add one thing. When, I've spent over the last couple of years quite a bit of time with the River Park Master Plan. If you take a look at the provided parking, it's probably not adequate. And so it's something that we really need to take a look at and add where necessary. I think we've seen an economic study that shows us the kind of usage that it will get. I don't know that we've yet matched that with the parking needs. So I think it's a good thing that council has seen the need, and it's something I think that needs to be added to the River Park Master Plan as we look at it in the future. It's going to add some costs. It's going to be very difficult to figure out how to do because it's a long linear park. Let's keep this situation in mind as we look forward to final kind of design for that project.
Thank you. Councilmember Hall, did you have any were you looking for action on this?
No, making it part of the River Park Master Plan is a great idea, and just we'll go with that.
And we're going to continue, obviously, we're going to continue to monitor it, and we'll be ready to respond if we need to. I'm in contact with some folks out there as well as Chief Conray's as well, so we'll stay on top of that.
Thank you.
Okay. If there is nothing else, that's the end of today's agenda. If you log off of this Zoom meeting and log back in for the workshop in about a minute, we'll be ready to populate that and get moving. So thank you, and we are adjourned.
Thank you.